Burlington, December 17th. We've got a very simple agenda, so I'm not going to go through too many formalities here. We have one item on the agenda, sketch plan. We do have minutes in our packet that we should look at and approve at some point. But sketch plan is one item, and we might as well get to it. This is a informal hearing on 362 Riverside. So on that, is yours to introduce.
Good evening. My name is Ben Avery. I'm the Vice President of Development at BlackRock Construction. With me is Doug Boyden, who is the landowner, and Jeff Sweeber from VHB. They will be the engineer and landscape architect on the project. Just a little quick background about us. I haven't been in front of this board before. Most of our projects have been in suburban Chittenden County. BlackRock is a South Burlington-based developer. A lot of housing and mixed-use projects, but in 2015 we entered into the senior care market, partnering with private equity groups and REITs. And since that time, we've developed in excess of 400 units across Vermont, New Hampshire, and upstate New York, with an additional, a portion of which is the project that's before you. With the recent boom that we've seen in the community, there's been a lot of development in the last 5 to 7 years of higher acuity projects that involve assisted living and memory care, and it's left a little bit of a lag in independent senior apartments, which does appear to be catching up. When we met Doug several years ago, Riverside was an interesting area, in no small part. These seniors, both seniors from the local community as well as seniors from further afield, are looking for public transportation, access to health care and community services that is nearby, and Riverside really checked all of the boxes for that. Developer primarily, so this is a market rate project by and large. We do try to develop projects with a diversity a percentage of affordable units as well as a mix of unit types, some studios, but we tend to lean to 1 and 2 bedrooms. This particular project will be probably 55 to 60 units will be where it lands, and we do intend to retain ownership with equity partners of this building. So this is not a project that is currently in partnership with any large-scale out-of-town group. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff to sort of walk you through the site plan, and then we do have some very preliminary elevations. We just retained our architect and just have some sketches for you to take a look at as we dive into the process.
I just want to note that the intent of sketch really, and it's really to you to get feedback from here and for us to understand what you're trying to present, and the feedback we give you is going to be pretty much based on the information that we have, which is in this case fairly minimal. So this allows us to get started.
Yes.
So.
I just also want to make a disclosure. I previously represented a group of neighbors who are concerned about a BlackRock development. Worked it out, unrelated. I don't think it has any bias or is a conflict of interest. I just disclosed it.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Sweeber with VHB, an engineer that's working on the project. So I have a couple slides here. I think I'll just walk through, kind of show you what we're proposing, and then I have some photos of the surrounding areas like and how we're proposing to fit building into it. This is an aerial view from the west, looking to the east. Riverside Avenue is here. Hillside Terrace is both to the west of the project and then heads around through the Burlington Housing Authority property and loops back on the east side of the property. Riverwatch condos are to the east, and so the property that's being developed is between Riverside Avenue and Hillside Terrace on both sides, and contains 4 existing single-family houses and a detached garage. It's important to note as we kind of look at how it's laid out, even though Hillside Terrace loops around, the project's frontage on Hillside Terrace is only on the west side. So this is along Riverside Avenue, is on the right side in the grass area and extends to the right. Across the street is this hitch repair place and the existing parking lot where they're storing some cars. So there's a lot of infrastructure in this vicinity that'll support this project, both from a utility aspect and from a pedestrian infrastructure standpoint, but it's in the need of some investment of the surrounding buildings. This is on the Hillside Terrace on the west side looking east. The White House there on the left is part of the project that's going to be developed. This building here is owned by the Burlington Housing Authority, and so that's the nearest building to this project, and it's a windowless storage shed. So it helps, even though they're both going to be multifamily uses, this is kind of the nearest building that they have, which will help ease any perceived. This is on the west Hillside Terrace looking north. The grade descends approximately 10 feet from where the existing highway is, and between the Riverside Avenue frontage and the parking area, which is basically 1 story up. This is a site plan of the existing site. It has about a 1/4 acre of impervious area between the driveway area and the rooftops. So this is
Just a question, just on the other slide, the previous slide. On I guess it's the west side where your property goes up to I'm assuming the right-of-way for Hillside Drive?
Hillside Terrace, yes.
But there's a lot of land between your property line and Hillside Terrace. Is that the right-of-way for the road?
Yes, that's
And is
my
there something-
understanding. I believe the right-of-way terminates at a certain point, but there is Hillside Terrace right-of-way and the existing legal access from this side. On the other side, you have this line here, which is the property line, and then this other dashed line that generally follows the right-of-way. So the Burlington Housing Authority owns this finger of land that sticks up between this side, between the road and the parcel.
Thank you.
So this is looking directly south from what would be Riverside Avenue, and we're proposing along Riverside Avenue, the frontage. It's basically a 3-story building with a walkout basement. If you want to think of this almost as are up above that, but we're also providing this lower level that helps engage the street.
Are there activities going to happen on that level?
No, so it's a complicated site. So we looked at the opportunity to go down into the hillside for subterranean parking, and it just didn't make sense. So the easiest way to explain it is on elevations. The interaction with the street is roughly at a 202 elevation, and the entrance off of Hillside Drive. Do you want to go back one? There you go. The street entrance off of Hillside Drive is at an elevation of roughly 212. So what we came up with for a design is surface parking at that 212 elevation, the first floor of the building. And so we looked at an opportunity to take that 10 feet below that and build some service area that would interact with the street to sort of bring that vibrancy of the building to the street and vice versa. So it is a 3-story building that sits on top of a walkout basement.
I think technically it's called a 4-story building. But isn't other uses, retail and things, encouraged in this type of district?
It's encouraged, but it's not required.
not required, okay.
And I think your question was like, is there activity on that lower level?
And the answer is yes.
Yeah, there's common areas.
Yes.
Common areas being,
We envision potentially putting food service down there, and then on the backside, obviously, it's buried, so perhaps storage. Storage in these communities is at a premium. So this offers us an opportunity to put enclosed indoor storage, things like that. But having the food service component interact with the street and perhaps some common living room area as well makes for a nice feature.
Is there a, I think, we have another project on Riverside just down the way. And we had a conversation about the front entrance and the sidewalk that it connects to. I see that you've got some street connection. If you go to the overall site plan, you're fairly close to the street. Is there any sidewalk at that part of Riverside that you're connecting to?
Yes, so, got a picture of it here somewhere. There is a, I'm trying to find this photo, there's a sidewalk, a pedestrian sidewalk along the south side, multi-use path on the north side with on-street bike on both sides.
So is there a sidewalk on the side that you're building on?
There is, yes.
Okay. And where's the nearest crossing? Like, there's lighted, protected crossings on Riverside?
I think it would be at the corner, at the light. is it
So
not?
yeah, this is the sidewalk
Okay.
on the side of Riverside Avenue where the development is.
Yep.
And then there's a crosswalk, so we're developing this here.
Got it.
And there's a crosswalk immediately on this side here.
Did you give any thought to any mixed-use commercial development? I mean, I hear what you're saying about the limitations of the site, but can you tell me a little more about appropriateness for it there?
One of the trends in the industry right now is partnering with a small cafe or food service operation for both the residents, the community, as well as we can make it a benefit for the operator, because oftentimes those scenarios we provide a zero rent situation in exchange for one meal a day for the residents. That is something we're exploring. We haven't settled on that yet. Some of the challenges that we see there are vehicular activity, access, things like that. So we want it to be a viable option, but that is something that we are considering. I don't see in this location it being any sort of a large-scale operation. The other model that's out there that we've looked at is partnering with a catering group. Again, similar trade space for services, but that really all has to be flushed out in programming and in design. We've got to see how much space we have. We're working down there, and exactly what we can get in there feasibly and meet egress and part of the building. So we will have some limitations. The interaction with the street really will need to be flushed out. We asked the architect to simply put a staircase there. The primary entrance for the residents of the building will be undercover on the back side. So the vehicular entrance for the building will serve as the primary entrance for residents, unless they're utilizing public transportation and going out that front.
backside being west side.
East.
South.
North.
No, it faces
I could say
north.
east, and then we got them all covered.
The drive entrance is on the west side here,
Yeah.
and it goes on, the parking goes underneath the building.
And when
So
you
the
say the
primary
main
entrance
will
is,
be from somewhere, where do you enter it?
the parking is underneath the building, so the parking lot,
So you're entering through the parking,
correct.
Correct.
pedestrians.
Oh, well, the pedestrians that live there if they're driving. Other pedestrians, there'll be a door on the,
Just, I know we don't have a lot of information. It's a preliminary thing. My reaction is, boy, pedestrians should be able to get into the building in a nice fashion.
Yeah, they've
And
got the
does that
front entrance.
202 elevator, 202 level reach the elevator?
No, the street entry, you mean?
Yeah.
Will that access the elevator?
Yes.
On the same grade.
from Riverside.
Yes.
Okay.
If I understand, the street entrance would be what you were referred to as a walkout basement, we're thinking of as level 1, and the parking entrance would be floor 2, the first actual floor of living space?
Correct.
I can see that in this rendering, how that would work.
Zora, you have a question?
I'm going to break my own rules and talk about parking. So you're asking parking waiver. Do you know what the minimum requirement is for this development? Sorry, Scott.
Well, the waiver I'm hearing might not occur depending on the number of units. The sketch plan says 65 units, and I'm hearing more likely 55 to 60.
I think 55 to 60, we're beginning to flush out the,
that right?
how many square feet we have to work with.
Yeah. And the parking is 1 per dwelling unit.
So 60, so it'd be. But that was your question?
Yeah,
Oh.
mostly.
That's easy. I have a question about emergency access. I just went through this with Winooski. They were not excited about a pass-through at all. And so that also may be an issue for Public Works. But seniors tend to get visited a little bit more by emergency services. So I'm a little concerned about two things. One, that the entrance that an ambulance or a fire truck would have to use would be the pass-through entrance. I'd make sure that that's really vetted with emergency services. In fact, I'd want them to say, like, yeah, I'm okay with this. And then two, make it clear that the emergency entrance is that way, because what we would probably not be good is if every time ambulance or fire had to come, that they sat in that travel lane on Riverside.
Yeah, we actually, we did have a TAC review, and that of address and whether it would, in theory, it retains a Riverside address, but also in practicality, even today, the primary entrance from a 911 perspective is actually on Hillside. So I would anticipate that being a larger discussion as we move forward over addressing. And we're happy to accommodate emergency services however they would want to see it. Doing this all day, every day, it would be my inclination to suggest a to Hillside address, and that solves the problem.
As long, yeah, and I flagged the pass-through thing just because I think we just would need some comfort.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, and we own and operate these buildings, so it's
And the primary entrance will be on the south side here, and there is parking that will be outside of the pass-through. So depending on, initially we're showing the handicap underneath the pass-through.
Yeah, like, you know,
outside.
if one of the big fire trucks is the first responder to a fall incident, we just want to make sure that they have a place to pull in, operate, turn around and get out without having an issue. That's all. Yep. I think, in general, I like to see that we have senior housing in Burlington. I think it's probably a good location for it, and I think there's a need for it. So overall, I think the project's pretty much on target. So, I mean, I don't have a lot in terms of scale or scope when I look at it. That makes me think like, whoa, this is way out of line. I think Riverside's a developing area with some larger projects in the area, and, you know, it's a good infill project, it seems like.
I don't know if you finished your presentation there.
Of the utilities, the stormwater management that we're looking to So on the site, most of the utilities on Riverside, or all the utilities on Riverside are underground. We'll be making connections to power, sewer, and water along Riverside Avenue. Stormwater, we're going to collect from the roof drainage from the building and a parking lot inlet and place into underground stormwater attenuation tanks. For the more frequent 1-inch storm, it'll be routed around the west side of the building through planter beds to provide filtration and treatment. The larger storms will bypass that, so then erode the planter beds and go out the east side, where it'll connect to the existing separate storm system across Hillside Terrace, and then discharge with a larger drainage shed across Riverside and into the Winooski. So we've been in, and we're confident that we can provide for this 9/10 of an acre lot the required stormwater measures on site for both treatment and attenuation for the system.
Is that near the area of that slope that's had some slope failures lately where you're discharging on the backside of Riverside? I know there've been some serious issues.
It's discharging in a different location. Yeah, but there is various issues along the slope. This goes into a pipe situation. It's on the south side of Riverside. And I don't think, even though it's located in the general area of the town, I don't think this project is directly related to that situation at all.
Okay.
So a couple of, trash location, you got to get dump trucks or, trash trucks pick it up? Or
No, they'd be backing into the entrance here, and then there would be a trash room in the southwest corner of this building, to the west of the main entrance, and it'd be wheeled out by hand carts.
And the outline that we're seeing there, that's the property line, right?
Correct.
Okay. And do you anticipate having any landscaping happening on the project?
Yes.
I don't expect to have it designed now. I'm just curious, whether you just, you can go right up to the property
Yes,
line.
we'll need to work through a landscaping design. There's also going to be some retaining wall on the uphill side, so that will all have to be engineered and figured out. We don't know to what extent. We are doing some very moving geotech up front, so we're having borings done next month, and we'll have a better understanding at that point of what we're going to need to engineer there, and then the landscaping will filter in on top of that.
From the Riverside side?
Correct.
And does it probably keep rising as it heads away from Riverside?
Not at the same rate, but there's still a small incline.
So I guess one of the things that strikes me is on the Riverside side, that is theoretically the main entrance to the building, right?
For all practical purposes, yes.
I mean, unless you're driving, and so having a cover over the walkway and the entrance would seem to be important, especially for snow conditions.
It is covered. So this is what's confusing about this building, so everybody understands.
Yeah.
When you drive in that driveway at 212, the entire lower end of that building, can you move the cursor? See where the cursor is?
Yeah.
That entire,
I'm not,
it doesn't go to the ground.
can
That's
you go
all
back to
parking.
the elevation?
Yeah. You're referring along Riverside Avenue to have a canopy on the.
Yeah, this is the Riverside
on
Drive
this.
side. I see that as the main entrance of the building, unless you have some, I haven't seen anything on any elevation that says there's another real entrance to the building. I know that you have a way to get in there, but if people enter this side, if that really is indeed an entrance,
So you're thinking a canopy would make sense?
some kind of cover, and I am correct that people can walk through there and end up in an elevator?
Correct. The elevator would go
Okay.
the entire.
But and I do have some concern about what ends up on that ground floor. It could be just feel like an abandoned space, or other activities, or it can be made more attractive. Right now, it's a pretty blank facility, it's.
Food service is nice.
Yeah, if there's
Yeah,
some
I mean,
activity-
I
that's,
used to walk
that's,
by a senior living facility every day when I worked in Philadelphia.
and that's,
And it
that
was,
is,
food service. And
as indicated, that's, food service is the largest user of space in these buildings,
Yeah.
so that is,
Oh, that would be great.
that is what will end up down there. I don't know what else. I know that it won't be
That's
units.
fine, as long as there's activity.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as far as the blandness on the building, this is a very early sketch. This is always, Scott encouraged me to bring a rendering, which always makes me nervous at sketch plan, so.
Well, we can see it's a building and it gets vertical and it's not green or pink or something like that. Yeah. So I don't know, there's more you want to add or any other comments from the board? Like I said, it's preliminary, it's our opportunity to give you some feedback, and the feedback's sort of limited on what we get, so.
Yep. A lot of access, I'm hearing.
Yeah, I think, what people like about Riverside is that it has pedestrian access. You can get the bus service and you can walk along there, you can get to some parks. And so it seems like the building should be able to address that area.
Well, and we definitely see that as an opportunity, and how the programming for the building unfolds will a little bit drive the access. I can tell you historically, from the 400-plus units that we've developed, the people that live here and the people who are visiting them will enter on that 212 level through the residential entrance. They will either get out of their car or park undercover, with the exception of folks who are using public transport. The 80% of the traffic that comes through the building will flow through that covered entrance. That said, are excited to look at what the opportunities are that ground level's giving us, and then we'll sort of, as we decide that programming, that's going to help us shape what we want to do with that entrance. And if it is truly, if we're talking about a public cafe or something that's open to the public, that's going to be very different from if it ends up being not open to the public. We want to create more of a porch environment or patio environment for the benefit of the residents. So that's a little where programming that has yet to be vetted out will drive what that end design is.
An opportunity.
Yeah.
But to Brad's point, those 20%, I think Burlington tries to be a walkable, friendly city. So to the point that you can encourage that 20% to be greater and make them feel welcome to use that entrance, I think
Absolutely.
the happier we'll be.
Comments? Questions on your part? And I think we'll close, or we don't actually have a hearing, but we'll close this item. Thank you. We look forward to seeing what you do next.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And that is our single,
Wow,
That's it.
very exciting.
well done.
Early night for all of you.
Flip side is we're booking into February,
No.
your other meeting.
And with that, we're going to adjourn our meeting.
So you're telling me we're going to have like another 4 hours of meetings in January?
Like that. Well, the first meeting in January is the joint meeting.
Right.